In 2019, 2 people in Mongolia died after handling raw marmot meat. Bubonic plague, the same bacterium that killed 200 million people in the 14th century. Still out there, still circulating, still waiting for the right conditions. For 7 centuries, nobody knew where the Black Death started. Then geneticists extracted DNA from 7 bodies buried in a Central Asian cemetery in 1338, nearly a decade before the plague reached Europe. What they found was not just the origin point, it was the mechanism. Climate shift, rodent boom, single flea bite, continental catastrophe. And when researchers compared the 1338 outbreak to modern spillover events, 2019 Mongolia, 2020 China, ongoing cases across Central Asia, they realized something terrifying. The pattern that created the Black Death is not historical. It is happening right now. In the summer of 1886, a team of Russian archaeologists was conducting excavations at 2 small cemeteries near the village of Kara-Djigach, close to the northern shores of Lake Issyk-Kul in what is now Kyrgyzstan. They unearthed the graves of a Nestorian Christian trading settlement that had thrived on a branch of the Silk Road. Dozens of stone-marked graves, all dated to 1338 and 1339, nearly a full decade before the Black Death was first recorded arriving in Europe. Among the gravestones was an inscription in ancient Syriac. This is the tomb of the believer San Mok. He died of pestilence. The word appeared on multiple stones. Pestilence. In medieval times, a vague but deeply ominous term for any disease that could wipe out a community. The original archaeologists noted their findings, took records, and brought the skeletal remains back to St. Petersburg for storage. Then, like so many historical clues, the evidence was filed away and largely forgotten for 135 years. In recent years, Philip Slavin, a medieval historian at the University of Stirling, stumbled upon these old records while researching the economic history of the Black Death. He noticed something. Between 1338 and 1339, 118 individuals from this small community had died and been buried. Multiple tombstones explicitly mentioning pestilence. In a small trading community, that is not normal mortality. That is the crisis-level death rate. Slavin was almost certain this was the beginning of the Black Death. He had the graves, he had the dates, he had 118 bodies from a single outbreak that predated Europe's Black Death by 9 years. But the historian's conviction is not scientific proof. Ancient DNA from hot climates was considered impossible. DNA degrades without sustained cold, except dental pulp. The densest tissue in the body can preserve blood-borne pathogens for centuries. Slavin had the evidence. He just needed geneticists willing to attempt what most considered impossible. When he presented his findings, their reaction was immediate. This could be it. Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Germany had been building something that would change the calculation entirely. A massive genetic family tree for Yersinia pestis. They collected and sequenced over 1,300 samples, modern and ancient, from rodents and humans across the globe. Their data revealed something unexpected. In the early 14th century, the plague bacterium underwent a big bang of diversification. From a single ancestral strain, 4 new major lineages suddenly burst into existence. One of those 4 was responsible for the Black Death in Europe, and all subsequent outbreaks for the next 400 years. But the geneticists knew something else. The European strains already showed 1 or 2 mutations. They were descendants, not ancestors. The mother strain had to be somewhere else. They had built the family tree. They had the branches. They knew one strain started everything. They just did not know where, until 7 teeth from a forgotten cemetery gave them the answer. Collaboration began. Slavin, Russian museum curators, and the Max Planck paleogeneticists. DNA was extracted from the teeth of 7 individuals buried in the 1338 cemetery. Teeth are ideal for this work. When a person dies from a blood-borne disease, traces of the pathogen circulate through the pulp inside the tooth, then lock into place as the tissue dries. 7 centuries later, that microscopic signature is still there. The results came back clear. 3 of the 7 individuals carried the unmistakable genetic signature of Yersinia pestis. The pestilence of 1338 was indeed plague. That confirmation alone would have been significant, but what came next mattered more. After sequencing the ancient bacterium's full genome, the team compared it against their global plague family tree. Over 1,300 samples, modern and ancient, spanning continents and centuries, they were looking for a match. Not to any known modern strain, not to any medieval European outbreak. They found something else. The 1338 Kyrgyzstan strain was the ancestral strain. It sat at the exact point of origin for the Big Bang diversification event, the mother strain from which all 4 major lineages descended. This was not just a plague outbreak, it was the source, ground zero. The DNA placed the origin with precision no historical record could achieve. But the question that matters is not where, it is how. How does a bacterium living quietly in wild animals suddenly kill 200 million people? The DNA revealed that too. And what it showed is the part nobody was prepared for. Yersinia pestis naturally lives in Central Asian rodent populations. Lake Issyk-Kul region is what epidemiologists call a natural plague reservoir. Marmots, gerbils, voles, millions carrying bacteria in equilibrium. Lives in fleas on the rodents. Picture a single burrow, dozens of marmots packed together, hundreds of fleas moving between them, millions of bacteria circulating in the blood of every host. Researchers propose a climate trigger. Warm, wet springs in the late 1330s. Vegetation flourishes. The rodent population explodes. More rodents mean more fleas, more plague circulating through the ecosystem. Crowded conditions amplify transmission. One hunter traps one infected marmot. One flea jumps, one bite. That is the bridge. But the people buried in that cemetery were not isolated villagers. Archaeological evidence makes that clear. The graves contained goods from distant lands. Pearls from the Indian Ocean, coins from Iran, artifacts traced back to Mediterranean trade networks. They were Silk Road traders. When caravans moved west, they carried cargo, travelers, and something else. Black rats, Rattus rattus. They thrived in grain stores, nested in cargo bundles, traveled unseen inside the very goods that made long-distance commerce possible. On those rats lived infected fleas carrying Yersinia pestis. The caravans became vessels of contagion. Settlement to settlement, the chain reaction moved westward across Central Asia. By 1346, it reached Crimea, the besieged port city of Kaffa. The Mongol army, dying of plague themselves, took corpses of their own dead and catapulted them over the city walls. Bodies rained into the streets, one of the earliest examples of biological warfare. The survivors fled on Genoese ships, carrying infected rats to every Mediterranean port. Europe was particularly vulnerable. Rat population boom, densely packed medieval cities, poor sanitation, perfect amplification conditions. 50 to 60% of the population died within 7 years. The rest is recorded history, but the origin, the single spillover event in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan, remained hidden for 700 years. The bacterium that killed 200 million people never left, still circulating in the same rodent populations across Central Asia. In 2019, 2 people in Mongolia die after handling marmot meat. Bubonic plague. In 2020, 4 cases reported in Inner Mongolia, China. Dozens of cases annually across Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, same Yersinia pestis, same animal reservoir, same spillover mechanism. Climate warming creates the same conditions. Longer springs, vegetation booms, rodent population explosions. Spillover events happen regularly. Most fail to spread. The one in 1338 did not. And we still do not fully understand why. That pattern is not a historical artifact. It is an active template. The DNA from 7 bodies in a forgotten cemetery rewrote pandemic history. It did not just answer where, it revealed how. Climate shift drives rodent boom. Bacteria find a bridge to humans. Trade networks amplify outbreak into continental catastrophe. The 118 people buried in that Kyrgyzstan cemetery did not know they were ground zero. They were traders, herders, members of a Silk Road community. The science that found them is not finished. The mechanism that turned 1 flea bite into 200 million deaths is still being investigated. We know where it started. We know how it spread. We do not yet know how to prevent the next one.